Thanks for joining us today. An evening with Data Family that is being organized by Delhi TUG and alongside the Hyderabad TUG with the help of Tableau, obviously. So we have got two sessions in this. One is the Tableau server processes by me, and other one is by Avinash. So we have these two sessions back to back. So first of all, again, thanks for joining us. And so we are Delhi and Hyderabad TUGs. If you have any questions related to any of these events, like if you want to join as a speaker, or if you have any questions related to any topic that we are going to discuss today, or it can be anything. So whatever queries that you have, you can reach out to these email IDs that are there in the presentation that you can see. So delhitug@gmail.com or hyderabadtug@gmail.com, any of those two you can reach out to. So also, if you want to present as a speaker, so we are very heartful welcome to you. So we'll encourage you to come and share, because this is a platform for the people like us who are doing their jobs, and on the way to our jobs we have learned so many things on a day-to-day basis, and we would like to just share it with the other people that are there in the community, so that they can learn from what we have learned in 7 days or 10 days. We can at least tell them in a 30 minutes kind of session. So you are, as I said, you are heartfully welcome to the as a speaker to present on any of the things that you know. It can be a development, or it can be a server, or it can be something that business communication, which improves your Tableau technicality of skills. Any topic that is related to Tableau, you can come and present without any issues. You are welcome, be it a small topic or a big topic, as I said. Uh, so now let's get into the topics that we're going to talk today. So first one, Tableau server processes. So why there are so many Tableau server processes? I mean, so many processes in a Tableau server. So why can't it be a single process that deal everything? Let me switch off my video. Also, one more important thing. So like, if you have any questions, you can put it in the Q&A box. So at the end of the sessions, or at the end of the two sessions, we'll try to answer those. Don't keep your questions in the comment box. Just put it in the Q&A button. So you will see I mean, the mute and polling button there, and then so you will see the Q&A box also. So you can type your questions there. So let's discuss why there are many processes. So why can't we have a single process in the backend of Tableau server, so that it is very easy for us to maintain the Tableau server? So when someone thinks of Tableau server, right? So we might think of a dashboard, or you might think of something more visually appealing that has been developed by an analyst or a developer in the backend, and then that has been brought into the front end to be shared to n number of users uh, in the business, more more than hundreds or thousands number of people who are going to access in the front end. So that is not just about the Tableau source. So what we'll see, what is the backbone in terms of making those visualizations successful, where our developers or analysts has taken a lot of days to build them, and what processes that makes them successful to be loading, or maybe the data refreshes, or many other functions that are available in the front end. So myself, Lakshmi Narayana, I'm a senior BA consultant, and I've been in Tableau ambassador as well. So you can follow my YouTube channel or blog to know more about Tableau server. It's Ask Lakshmi. So I'll share in the end of the slides. So now, yeah. So when we think of Tableau server, what we all think, it's like the fancy dashboard that the developers put a lot of days and hard work in cleaning up the data and building those dashboards, and giving the access of those dashboards to different people or different business persons who needs access to those dashboards, and opening the dashboards, just uh, looking at different insights that have been already developed, or maybe by using the functionality like Ask Data, which is the NLP engine, wherein you can write a question and you can get the visuals of it. Let's say, how are my sales doing for so and so quarter in so and so region? So you write a question and then you get the answer. A developer has, or an analyst who has put a lot of days of efforts in building a wonderful dashboard with a lot of insights, and just looking or opening that insight in the browser or maybe a mobile. So that is what comes to our mind when we think of a Tableau server. Yes, that is right. But there are many other things. So to make these core functionalities successful, there are many processes that are working in the backend. It's not just a single process or it's not a single service that makes everything happens just like that. So what are those different processes, right? So when we install a Tableau server in maybe a Windows or maybe a Linux kind of machine, can be a 2 node or a 3 node cluster. So it doesn't matter how many number of nodes that you install, but when you install a Tableau server, so it comes with a lots of processes like SQL, Visportal, Backgrounder, Data Engine, or the cluster controller, and many more. So what are these all processes that are doing in the backend? So let's say I clicked on a visualization. I clicked on a dashboard. So when the dashboard rendering happens, that spinning happens in the front end that you see. In the back end, your Tableau server does a lot of things. Like if it is a live based dashboard, it goes to from Tableau server, wherever your Linux or Windows machine is hosted, it goes back to your actual data source, which can be an XSL or an Oracle or a SQL server or a Google BigQuery. So it goes to that actual data source and brings the data onto Tableau server. So where is or how is the data? Uh, how is the data that is there? It is just in the number of rows, right? Or there can be more number of rows, and your Tableau core functionality, which converts the data, which is your SQL, which converts that rows and columns of data into different visuals. So that is the of key functionality of your SQL server. And the WIS portal, the portal that you logs in, right? The portal that you logs in where you enter a username and password and then click login inside. So that entire portal will be maintained by your WIS portal process. And also we have a gateway. Gateway is nothing but just the when you hit the URL in the Chrome or maybe a mobile device, or maybe you are trying to publish a dashboard from your desktop to Tableau server. So the first hit that goes to it's your gateway. So likewise, there are many other processes which plays different roles. So like, as I said, right, it is not a single process that does everything. So there are different processes that come in together in order to complete one set of requests to the end user, or maybe data extracts, or maybe your repository. So likewise, there are so many things. So we looked at a couple of them. So I mean, we discussed about a couple of them. Like we discussed about the VSQL, we discussed about the VS portal. So VSQL, as I said, is the key for converting your data, which is there in terms of rows and columns, into the visualizations. So that's the core functionality of VSQL process. And also your VS portal, which is responsible for the logging in, like you enter a username and password and then taking care of the authentication process. And once the authentication is successful, then opening the web page for the user. So everything will be taken care by your WIS portal. So let's say if assume it's like hypothetical. So everything is being handled by one single process. So how would be? So if something goes wrong, where would I go and check? Right? So if something is not working as expected, let's say the logging is not expected, I mean, the logging is not working, or maybe the visuals are not loading properly. So everything will be handled by one process, then it will be way more difficult for a server administrator to check at a single source for all the transactions that are happening in the backend. So when you have somebody responsible for one specific function, if that is not working as expected, then you directly go to that specific process only. So if say I published a dashboard which was working fine without any issues on my desktop, and it is not working fine as expected on the server, so whom should I look at? That's the functionality, or that's the responsibility of my VSQL. Then I immediately go to my VSQL process and I'll see in the logs like how much time it is taking, or maybe is it the rendering itself the taking time, or the dashboard design has been taking a lot of time? So we can run a performance recording immediately, and we can look at all of those metrics. Or sometimes what happens, even if you enter a right username and password, you might not be able to log in. So in which cases you can go and check your vis portal and some other services that are already there. So in a similar way, so your gateway, as I said, you make a request from your computer to Tableau server, and the request will first handled by your gateway process, not any other process. So once your gateway process says, okay, the request is fine, it has come from a right resource, then it sends the request to the next available process, which is your vis portal for authentication purpose. So once the vis portal has been done, which is taking care of the authentication and everything, then it will be handled by your visql, like, okay, what is the dashboard that the user has opened, and whether the dashboard is connecting to a live based or an extract based data source. If it is a live or extract, is it an embedded or published outside? So what kind of data source is it is? So where do we have all that information? Your visql can't store the data, so it will read the data from your repository. So Tableau server, when you install a Tableau server, it will come with an inbuilt repository. So that repository, what is it? It's a Postgres database. So that Postgres database will record all of the information. All, when I say all of the information, each and everything that you do on a Tableau server, at what time a specific user is logging in, or maybe what dashboard has published at what time, what workbook has been viewed when, and which extracts are running at what point in time, and if they are failing, at what time they are failing, or how many number of users I have in total. So all of these metadata information that is related to my Tableau server will be stored in my Postgres database. And when somebody opens a dashboard in the front end, it's your Postgres responsibility to make sure, or it's your Postgres responsibility to give that data to usql and vis portal, whether the user has a right to open it or not, which is the authorization comes into picture. So likewise, these are all the processes that works together in order to make every function in the front end successful and working as expected. Now, so okay, fine. I have lot number of processes. I have lot number of services in the backend. But if I want to reading about them individually, okay, you can do that. I mean, visql does this thing, cache server does this thing, vis portal does this thing, or maybe data engine which creates the extracts in the backend. That is fine. I can do. But how can I read? How can I understand how this entire flow works? Right. So maybe somebody opened a dashboard. So what are all the processes that are involved in this process? Or if somebody is trying to log in into the server, so what are the processes that are involved? How do you know the architecture more better? So that is where Tableau has given a dashboard, okay, in the Tableau public, where you can open the dashboard and see. So which, though this is quite useful dashboard, I mean, it's a lot actually. So it's quite useful, a lot of dashboard for understanding the entire architecture, how different processes they work together. So as I said, let's try to replicate a scenario. So what is the scenario? Somebody is accessing a view. So what is that view? So when I say view, it can be multiple views. It can be a view from your already cached view, or it can be an embedded extract, or it can be a published, it's picking up from a published extract. So it can be from anywhere. So maybe I'll take embedded live connection. Okay. So as soon as I open this, so you can see the dot has been appeared at client, nothing but somebody is making a request to access a particular view on Tableau server. So which might come from a browser or a desktop or a tab or a tablet or a mobile. So step 1 and 2, you select a combination, and step 3, it will take you through the flow. Okay, I moved a bit onto right hand side. So under step 3, you can see, as I said, the first request will go to your gateway process. So you can see here, or you can hover over your mouse, and in the tooltip you will see the gateway receives the request and forwards it to whom? The application server, because the application server is the process which is responsible for your authentication, because not every user, whoever has a Tableau URL, they can't log in. So it will have a specific authentication mechanism. So it might be in the backend being supported by a SAML or a Kerberos or some other mechanism, but it has some security in the front end, wherein in order to log in, you have to type in your username and password, and your application server is the process which checks whether a logged in user is a right user or not, right? So after that, so once the authentication is successful, then the request will go to your SQL server, because SQL server is the process which opens the dashboard up. I mean, which converts the entire data into visual appearance. So what the request goes to SQL server. So what your SQL server does, it immediately checks with the repository saying, okay, Lakshmi has logged in. So has he access to this dashboard as at all or not? So that will be checked by your SQL with the help of the data that is available in your Postgres repository. So this is your repository process. So now the request first comes to gateway, the gateway process, and from there it will go to application server, which checks the authentication. From there, it goes to SQL in order to render the dashboard. But before rendering the dashboard, it will check with the repository whether the user have access to it or not. So after that, so once it says, okay, yes, Lakshmi has the access to it, then your SQL server connects to the data sources, because every workbook is being driven by a data source. So likewise, it connects to data sources. So in this case, we selected a live connection. So what do you mean by live connection? Live is nothing but your data source will be there out of your Tableau server somewhere else. If it is an extract, then it is a snapshot of data which exists within the Tableau server, wherever your Tableau server located. So there itself, the extract copy will be there. But in this case, it is a live, which is an external data source. So what it does, your SQL server will check out for the drivers. So what connection that it has to made on the specific Tableau server. So once the connection has been identified, then it passes it through the wherever our data source is. So once it reaches out to the data source, then the data will be brought back to your SQL server in order to make it as a dashboard. Rather, so how the data stores in your database or maybe Excel files or flat files, it will be in rows and columns format. But what we see in the front end, it is all visuals. So SQL server reads the data from here and brings the data back and then gives the data to the gateway, because how user has communicated with us, it is through the gateway process only. So entire communication happens via gateway. So you can see the request started here with the gateway. It has gone here and then it has gone to SQL and then to the external data. And then it has come back to the user saying, okay, this is the your rendered view. This is your renders dashboard. So this is an example how the entire architecture flow works. So in the similar way, there are so many flows or the so many architectural flows that you can select here in order to check. So let us look at one more. So authentication, maybe we'll do it with Active Directory. Okay, so just select none, because we don't have step 2 to select here. It is just the authentication, how the user gets authenticated. It's like you open in the URL in the client. The client can be, again, the process is same. So it's like it goes to gateway, and then your gateway will check with your application server in order to open the login page, like enter username and password. So that page will be taken care by this. So immediately it will go to your repository, because your repository is the super data source which will store all of the data that is there. Is it a local, or it's an Active Directory, or it's a 3-node cluster, or it's a 2-node cluster? All of the metadata information will be stored in your repository. So Your request will go to your repository. From there, a repository will says, okay, hey, this is not local authentication, it's an active directory. So go and check with AD, not me. So that information will be fed back to your application server. Then what happens? Your application server register the response and it gives that response to gateway, because gateway is the process which talks to your active directory service, which is this active directory controller. So AD controller, which will be in the organizations, which will be maintained by the Windows or ADs or security teams in external. So this is all Tableau server, whatever is there in this box. So this is all Tableaus, this is client, this is external data sources. This is all, again, this is out of Tableau. So your gateway has sent the request to your AD controller saying, okay, we received a request from so and so user. This is the password, this is the username. So is it right or wrong? So once your AD says, yes, this is the right user, or maybe this is the wrong user, then that will be passed to your end user. So if he's a right user, then the authentication is successful. If he's a wrong user, then the authentication fails. Application server will not show the web page if it fails. But in this case, so it is assuming that it's a positive. So you can read out each and every step, what is happening here. Then based on that, you can go from there. So in similarly, if you check for the local authentication, right? So we checked for AD. Let's look out for local. So local again, same, it goes to, let me drag it to half completely. Okay, so here till here it is the same. So any request going, I mean, any request that first goes to your gateway, that is fixed. Okay, and then application server. So depends on the request, it goes forward. Okay, so in this case, you can see here. So it's the external authentication is not in this case, it is a local authentication. So what does your application server does? Your application server itself verifies the authentication of user, whether the given username or password is wrong or right, immediately with your repository, and it gives that back information to your gateway. Okay, and then at the end it will show the web page because everything is fine and there. So this is how you can understand the entire processes workflow. So there are many permutations and combinations in here, so which you can select and see how different processes come together and they work. So why you need to understand the processes, even being in a, I mean, being on the development side. So do I need to understand how the process architecture works? I will not say sure, but maybe, because when something goes wrong, maybe your extract is failing, or maybe users are not able to log in, or maybe the web page itself is not available, then it is something that you can, being as a developer, still you can advise your administrator, okay, uh, so after entering the username and password, it's not accepting me as a user, so go and check in the SQL if it is a local authentication. So if it is not local, go and check with the active directory team what the issue is there. So you can be an advisor instead of, okay, please admin check this. So that gives you a more confident in terms of working with the Tableau server. So again, it's up to you. So if you want to pick up that route, yes, I would definitely suggest. So how to go or how to learn these things. So first, I would say start with different processes that are there. So that is how you can even how I have started. So Tableau server processes. So hit the first link in the Tableau documentation itself. So Tableau server processes you can see, right? So it gives a detailed explanation. What is the process name? What is it being called in the backend? And what is the purpose of it? And in detailed explanation, like what is an ask data? So obviously, you know, when we have a published data source, you click on the data source, the first tab that you get in the Tableau server, I mean, in the browser, that is ask data. You write a question, it immediately makes up a visualization from that. So you can directly view it. If you're so that is what. So if the you're writing the question, but it is somehow the visualization is not appearing, or maybe the ask data itself is taking a lot of time. So then what you can do, hey admin, can you check if the ask data process is green or not? I mean the tick mark. Nothing but it's up and running without any issues. Right. So that is how you can read about different processes. There are lots of processes, but just reading the process obviously will not give you the architectural understanding of the system, which you can get from these permutations and combinations. Like you select something here, you access a view, and then here, so previously we selected a live, maybe now you selected an embedded extract. So what would be the major difference between live and extract? In extract, it will not go beyond your Tableau server. So if I do this in an extract, it will not go beyond your Tableau server, because what is an extract? It's a snapshot of data which being pulled onto Tableau server on a specific frequency. But it is not when user opens it, it is when the schedule is there. So when user opens, it immediately check within the data engine itself, right? And then it reads out the, I mean, it gives out the visualization to the end user. That's it, done. So these are all the different things. I mean, yeah. So step one, read about the different processes. Step two, go through this dashboard, which I'll share with you all in the email post the session. So you can go to this Tableau public also, or yeah, I got it. So in the Tableau servers page itself, if you go down to the entire bottom of the page, so here you will see the same has been embedded onto this page. So I opened the same one this on the other page also. So you can look at this one also. So now we discussed what different processes are there and what they do, and in an architecture wise, how they are interlinked, right? So how they are interlinked. So we looked at all of these things, but why Tableau has built these things in such a way? Why can't it be a single process to maintain the entire Tableau server architecture? Why I have to have these many things? And normally, the most common question that I get in a day-to-day operations, or when we do some maintenance, right? So when we restart a Tableau server, it's like it takes 20 minutes. It depends on how large your cluster is, or it might take 15 to 20 minutes. So most of the times people say, okay, why it is taking so much time? It's a simple Windows service. Why can't it restart in a couple of minutes? No, that's not the case. The Tableau server takes a lot of time, maybe 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes to restart, because it has lots of processes in the backend which are working together in order to make your Tableau server successful to be worked. Now the question is why there are so many processes. We, as I said, we looked at what are those processes for, but why there are so many processes? Because the answer is simple. When you have one function dedicated to one process, it is more easy for us. It's more easy for a administrator to do the maintenance or to do the troubleshooting when the things happen. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, please ask the questions in Q&A. I'll answer those questions at the end of the session, sure. Yeah, so why there are so many? Because as I said, if you have only one process responsible for one single function in the front end, then it is easy for administrator to troubleshoot the things out there. So that is one first thing. And also, when we have, let's say my Tableau server has a lot of extracts. Okay, let's take an hypothetical situation. So my Tableau server has a lot of extracts. There are so many extracts that runs in the backend, or so many subscriptions that runs in the backend. So what is the process that is responsible for extract? That is backgrounder processes. So let me, yeah. So you can see running of an extract. Yeah, so refresh and extract. So who is the process responsible for the extract? So that is your backgrounder. So your backgrounder takes the responsibility to run the extracts. See, backgrounder, it starts with the backgrounder. So what I can do, rather increasing all of the processes, I will simply increase my backgrounder processes more on the cluster, right? I have a single node with a 16 core system wherein I have so many processes in the backend running, but my Tableau server is sophisticated. I want it to be run more number of extracts. I have a less number of users usage. Then what I can do, I increase the backgrounder processes individually so that they will be able to handle more number of backgrounder requests, more number of the extracts or subscriptions. So what you can do, you can easily scale up your processes without any major architectural changes, and the redundancy will be more. Also, let's say if I have two backgrounders, um, if I have two number of backgrounders, and even if one backgrounder fails, then I will have other backgrounders to continue the operations, which is giving me a high availability, so that even if one backgrounder goes down, I have the flexibility to run my operations. It's not a complete blockage for me. So these are the different reasons, important reasons why there are so many processes. So like scale up and scale out is way more easy, and the redundancy is better. And also the one of the good things is, like, let's say you have a single node architecture with maybe 16 core or maybe 8 core, but you are limited in terms of the system resources. Then what you can do, SQL, which is responsible for your dashboard loads, and backgrounder, which is responsible for running your extracts. So you can increase these two dynamically without restarting your entire cluster. Okay. So how can I do? So dynamic topology changes in Tableau server. So what we can do, we can increase either backgrounder or SQL server, increase and decrease both. So increase and decrease these two processes dynamically so that they will be able to handle the more number of requests. So what I can do, let's say my office hours are, I mean the business hours are 9 to 5, maybe UK or US times. So during that time, I'll set my backgrounders to just two so that they will not, they will run less number of extracts and the users dashboard loads will be much better. But once my business times are over, what will I do? I'll increase my backgrounder nodes to maybe four processes, right? Maybe six processes, so that they're capable of handling more number of extracts. And also I'll schedule my extracts to the off business hours, and applying these changes will not require a restart. So that is what the dynamic topology changes is about. So it requires no restart. So you can increase, you can decrease the backgrounders or SQL process without a restart, which will make an efficient use of your existing hardware resources. That is another thing, right? So likewise, there are many advantages of having these many processes in terms of easy scale up, scale out, redundancy, increase the processes dynamically to make use of your hardware more efficiently, and also the last and important thing is high availability. You can have two number of SQLs on the same server. So even if one SQL goes down because of some reason, you will have other processes running. Also, when you have a cluster, right? So when you have a cluster with couple of nodes or three nodes, you can put your backgrounders on second node. So how we can do? So again, same thing, Tableau server, two node, recommended hardware. Yeah, so recommended baselines. So what you can do, so this is a single standalone, but I would like to have, so this is how your two node architecture looks like. You have so many processes in here. I'm keeping my backgrounders more onto, you can see I don't have backgrounder processes on this node at all. I have all of my backgrounders only on node 2, so that even huge number of users accessing my cluster, they will not be impacted even if there are many background tasks like extracts, flows, subscriptions are running, because those are completely being taken care by my node 2. So this is advantage of having multiple processes, because you can simply switch the processes onto other node which you want to have more, right? So this is, and you can see, I mean, there are, you can type in like 3 node recommendations, high availability recommendations. You will see a lot of recommendations also from Tableau. Uh, so coming back to our presentation, so this is, we looked at the processes dashboard. So if you have any questions, you can put in the Q&A. I'll try to answer towards the end of the sessions. If you want to know more about Tableau Server, yes, you can follow my YouTube channel or blog. Both are in the name of Ask Lakshmi. Thanks for joining us today again. I'm handing over the session to Avinash.
Yeah, thanks, Lakshmi. I really enjoyed the session, and I never came across to see the Tableau server process in detail. So thanks for the session. So can you hear me? Okay, Lakshmi.
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay. Sorry, just give me 1 minute. My screen got stuck. Hello everyone, apologies for the delay. So my system screen got stuck and I'm back again. Okay, well, so myself Avinash, and thanks for having me here. I would like to say thanks to the organizers. So myself Avinash, and I'm going to present a session on Tableau reference lines. Although Tableau reference lines it's not a brand new topic. It's there from long time. But again, I always feel like it's a brand new feature, and I would like to explore more with the different chart types. So here is the agenda for the today's session. So I'm going to talk about a little introduction about me, and later we can straight away jump into the demo and see some of the examples of how we can use the reference lines and what is the reference line. So if somebody is new to this topic, so I would cover that aspect. So at the end, I'm happy to take some of the questions if time permits. If not, you can send me all of the questions to my email ID, or there are some of the email IDs presented at the starting of the session, so you can send to those as well. So as I said, myself Avinash, and I'm a business intelligence analyst working with Tata Consultancy Services based out of Ireland. And I have around 10 years of experience in business intelligence and database management. So most part of my work, I work with healthcare and financial industries. And I received 2 Viz of the Day awards so far, and I'm a visual evangelist. Also, I would like to participate in most of the Tableau public visualization challenges like Makeover Monday, Sports With Sunday, and Project Filters. So if somebody is new to Tableau, if they want to grow their career in terms of Tableau, so I would really encourage to take a part of those challenges. So those would really helpful for you to grow your career. And these two are the Visa of the Day awards which I have received. So with that, we're going to discuss about the reference lines topic. So by the way, what is the reference line? By the definition, it's a simply a line we can draw on any of the chart within the worksheet level. So there are two ways to do it. So I'm going in detail about those two ways a little later. And also there are a couple of options where you add any of the reference line in Tableau. So you can either use a reference line as it is, or you can also create some bands, distributions, and box plots as well. So as I mentioned, so that these reference lines, we can only do it in Tableau desktop, but I'm not sure the current version of the Tableau server is supporting or not. But we can do most part of the reference lines at the Tableau desktop, and we can push that to Tableau server to get more insights out of it. So these four, I'm going to show you four options. So these four are the available options within the reference lines pane. So again, when you add any reference line, so you can find out these four different types like lines, bands, distributions, and block spots. Again, there is a unique way to use all of these four options. So it again based on your requirement, or if you want to highlight something, maybe you can highlight by using a reference line. If you want to highlight some portion of the graph, so you can use bands or distributions. So we can use or create these reference lines in two ways. One is through analytics pane in Tableau, so which is there at the top side of the left corner. And there is one more way you can create these reference lines by using or by right clicking on axis within your worksheet level. So it could be a continuous axis, and also you can create these reference lines on dates as well. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples how you can leverage those things maybe with your real-time data, because I've been implemented these reference lines concept with parameters as well. So in one of my existing projects, so I received very well feedback from our customers as well. So it's very handy to use. So I will show you a couple of examples uh, related to that. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into my Tableau public profile. I can show you a couple of examples. So the main aim of this session is not go in depth about the lines, distributions, bands, and box plots. So it's more about the ways of using the reference lines with multiple chart types. So this dashboard is available for you to download. So you can just go through my profile, and if you want to download and explore it, so you are more than welcome. So you can download it and explore through different chart types. So apart from that, so I use these reference lines in three ways. The first one is a static line. So where you can create, I'm sorry, it is loading. So where you can create the reference line, just add a reference line. So again, it could be based on the aggregation level. Most part of the work where I use the aggregation level as a average. So that's what you can see in these examples as average. So this is a static reference line here. So what is the benefit that I can get out of it if I use a reference line? So let's say if I don't have this reference line, and maybe if my business users ask me something like, hey, highlight the months which cross more than 20 million revenue or 2 million revenue, and also highlight the months which are less than 2 million revenue. So if I have the reference line, the static reference line, I can able to answer that question maybe 25 or 50%, but I can't full-fledged answer that question. So that's why I can just enable one more thing with this static reference line. So I can create some calculated field within the Tableau to highlight uh, to highlight the months which falls under 0.19 million. So that's the average value. And what are all the months that crosses that figure or the average number. So with this example, now I can able to answer 100%. But again, maybe we don't know if the business users comes back to us and ask some more question like, so you had provided the answer based on my question, but what if I want to enter some number externally to see how these months are performing in terms of revenue or in terms of sales. So that's why I have created this reference line with the parameter. So I didn't use parameter here and here. So, but I had added some more flexibility for the user perspective. So they can come here and add, let's say, if I want to change this as 200,000, so they can simply enter 200,000, and the Tableau is going to execute the formula in the background, and it's going to highlight the months which falls above 200,000 K and below 200,000 K. So these three are the ways we can use with any of the chart. So I can say, when I say any of the chart, so there are some limitations for particular chart. So it may or may not be possible. Example, pie chart, we can't use the reference lines with pie chart, I guess. I never tried it. So, but apart from that, I'm going to show you a few more charts here. So the next one is the line chart. So the line chart. So I can also do a similar ways like a static reference line and with the calculation and with the calculation along with the parameter. So it's also going to work in a similar way that we saw just now. We see a couple of examples with bar chart. So it's also work in a similar way. And the next chart is a bullet chart. So I really like the bullet chart. Let's say whenever you're working with the financial data, so sometimes so there may be a chance like you have to show the actual versus target sales. So sometimes the target is fixed. So sometimes the target is not fixed. So then at that time, if you provide some flexibility to the user, so they'll get a chance to enter the number manually. So then they can get a chance to see the results instantly, because with the modern data visualization platform like Tableau, so they just want to see their data, or we just need to empower the business users with the most possible ways to get most benefit out of it. So this is another way to use the reference lines with a different chart. I can say bullet chart here. And also there is one more chart called Jitter Plot. So this is a custom chart in Tableau. It's not available in the Show Me panel. So if you want to explore to this Jitter Plot, how I have created, so you can download this workbook and explore. So here also I had shown the same ways with the Jitter Plot to highlight the customers who falls under average, below average, and above average. And this is where I have highlighted the customer, and this is where I have provided some flexibility to the end users to change or whatever the number which is in their mind, so they can simply enter and see overall the customers falls above and below. And the final chart type, again, this is not limited to these 5 charts, so you can definitely explore to as much as possible. But in this instant, I have used only 5 chart types to tell a couple of examples for you guys. So this is the scattered plot. So I really like to use or love to use this reference lines concept with the scattered plot. So I will show you a couple of examples to cover that why question. But here also you can see a similar way of representation based on the other chart types as well. So, and next, I'm going to show you another example here. So this is another example which I have created this dashboard last year based on the COVID-19 cases in India. So here I have used reference lines in slightly different way. I want to use the reference lines based on the dates. Why? Because I would like to understand, like, so in India the lockdown happened in 5 or 6 different ways. So I would like to understand, like, in each phase, how the cases count is growing. And a few of the phases, the India just ease the lockdown guidelines. Like, the first phase is very strict, and in next phase they have opened something for the people to go and see, or maybe they can go to park and take a walk. So that drastically increases the cases. So with this chart, so I would like to understand, for each and every state, so what is the count of total count of the cases in first phase, second phase, third phase, and fourth phase. But interestingly, you can see some division in some division in this chart. So you can see the black dotted lines, so that represents a reference line. Reference lines are not just limited to create only on the measure value. So you can also use the reference lines concept, uh, concept by the reference line concept using date functions, dates. So whenever you have a certain kind of scenario which is similar to this, and if you want to analyze how the COVID-19 cases are growing in different level of phases, so I can definitely leverage the concept of reference lines, and I can create something out of it. And the next example I have here is, so Human Development Index 1, so which is a part of a makeover Monday challenge I have created this particular wish. So let's say maybe few years back, I was thinking to move to some other country. So right now I'm in Ireland. So let's say maybe some of you may want to move to some other country. So it's not simple that we can move right away. So we need to consider so many factors, right? So like a Human Development Index, what is the gross national wages over there, and what is the life expectancy, so on and so forth. So in this aspect, so I can use this particular dashboard by leveraging reference lines concept to highlight the countries which falls. So again, this is a quadrant chart. So you can see 4 quadrants here. So this is the lower quadrant, and this is again based on the axis 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fourth quadrant, these are all the countries who has a good human development index, and also some good gross national income per capita. So let's say if I have 4 or 5 of the countries in my mind, so if I would like to select based on my preferences, like I would like to see the variation or the difference between human development index versus gross national income, or else human development index versus the expected year of schooling, maybe if I want to plan for my children and see. So with the reference lines, so you can clearly see the differentiation in 4 quadrants. And also you can straight away select whatever the country that you have here. So you can simply select that particular country, and you can get to know if that country falls under a good quadrant or not. In this case, it falls under 4th quadrant or not. So that is really a good way of using a reference line, so to get some benefit out of it if you have any kind of data or any kind of a business scenario similar to this. And the next one is about the breakfast cereal. So here also I have used the reference lines concept. So in this particular example, let's say if I want to see the foods which has more carbohydrates and more sugars. So if I eat more carbohydrates and more sugars, there may be a chance to increase my weight, right? So I would like to know what are all the food types which has more carbohydrates and more sugars. So I would like to avoid those foods, right? So if I want to reduce my weight, obviously I have to follow some plan. And again, when it comes to plan, so every dietitian so could recommend to reduce more carbs and more sugar. So I would like to explore in that aspect by using this data. Again, along with this data, I would like to leverage a concept of reference lines to understand the data better. So here you can see some example, I have selected my x-axis as carbohydrates, and I'm sorry, it's loading. So, and the y-axis as sugar. So both are in terms of grams. So that is fine. But what if I want to avoid the foods or food types which has more than 10-gram carbohydrate and 10 gram sugars. So here I have provided some parameters here, so that really gives some flexibility to the users. So I simply enter the values. So Tableau is going to do the remaining work for me. And so here are the list of the foods which contains more than 10 grams of carbohydrates and more than 10 grams of sugar. Again, it depends on quantity, how much you are consuming. So now I know what are all the foods who has which has more carbs and more sugars. So in this case 10, about 10 and about 10. So I can simply select these products, and maybe I would like to exclude these products from my diet. So in that way you can get more insights from the data, and which is really helpful for you to highlight the products which you wanted to exclude or avoid from your diet. That's good. And one more example here. So let's say if I want to invest in a Teledoc health company. So again, this is all public data. As a disclaimer, whatever I have been showing to you. So this is one. This is part of Project Health Wish. So I have participated in that. So in this particular wish, so let's say if I would like to, I have some maybe 1,000 euros or maybe 1,000 USD, and would like to invest in any of the health related companies, because in these days, especially during this pandemic, the health related companies stock performance is really growing. So I would like to understand the past, and I would like to understand the future based on the availability of the data. Again, I have a very limited data, so I would like to show you how I can analyze the data and how I can leverage the concept of reference lines and invest or take the better decisions further. So when I enter, again, I have a lower band and upper band. So again, this comes as a distribution. So that is one of the type of Tableau reference line. If you connect back to my initial discussion. So here you can see the lower band, I entered 30, and upper band I entered 100. So it's just going to highlight the portion of this line graph which falls during 30 and 100. So if I simply highlight that level, so now I can understand, like, okay, this company during maybe 1st Jan 2018 until 1st Jan 2020, so their stock price is in between 30 to 100. Again, after 2020 Jan, so it suddenly grows fast. So if you'd like to take any decisions, like, or maybe I can also see something like maybe, for example, if I take any euro price, so euro price to INR, it will get increased in March, or sorry, in Jan and September. Why? Because there are so many students who comes here to Europe for the study. So that's the reason they'll get more income. There may be a chance to increase the euro to INR conversion. So in that way, I can able to understand what are all the happening, sorry, not happening, what are all the months which my stock price or Teledoc price, health price stock is performing very well, and where it is not performing very well. So based on that, I can go ahead and take a decision out of it. And last but not least, but again, this is the last example for this session. So here is something if you have, so again, so I learned this particular topic from Yvette. So she has created a blog, so I just learned from that blog. So in this particular example, I would like to highlight the area chart based on my date selection. So whatever is prior or until that date, I want to highlight that in my chart. and I don't want to show the other part which is going beyond this date. Okay, so let's say if I'm sorry, again it's loading. Okay, so let's say again if I would like to move this parameter, maybe from August to July, and maybe July to June prior to this. So you can observe, so this graph is going away. So, but again, in the background, you have some graph here. But again, based on the colors or formulas that I have written inside, it's not going to visible for you, but still you can see if I highlight over here, you can still see something. So again, if I want to move this parameter to August, and you can see this is going to fill that gap, or this is going to fill until August, September, maybe so on and so forth until March 2020. So with that, I'm going to give a pass, and I would like to take any questions. If there are any questions for related to this topic, I'm happy to take it. Thank you.
Thanks, Avinash. It was a useful session. I learned a lot of things related to reference lines, and definitely I'll refer to your Tableau public profile to learn more. Just a suggestion, you could put your Tableau public profiles link onto the chat window as well, so that everyone could refer to it.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Lakshay. Glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I will share the profile link.
Sure, sure, sure. So we'll now start with the question and answer session. I probably have got questions till now for Lakshmi. So we'll wait for more questions for Avinash. Meanwhile, Lakshmi, could you please have this questions answered? Lakshmi, are you there?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably
So
we can. Yeah, please go ahead and read the questions.
yeah. So I'll just ask all the questions to you which have been listed. So Google has asked, can you please explain about cluster and nodes?
Uh, so that's very high level. So cluster and nodes in the sense, see, so we have a Tableau server. So when we install a single node, first we install a single node. So what we can do, we can add more hardware to the single node itself, right? Which we call scale up. Nothing but one single server, one single infrastructure, but we are increasing the hardware, nothing but scaling up. Maybe on the same server, you are adding more processes of Tableau server, again scaling up. But when you would like to have a high availability to be in there, let's say something happened to that single node, what happens? So nothing will help us. So in those scenarios, we will add a couple of nodes more so that to the existing server itself, then that becomes a cluster. So if you have two or more nodes in a single setup, that is called what being called as a cluster, Tableau server cluster. So one cluster can have from two to unlimited. I mean, from Tableau perspective, it is unlimited, they say. So that is what we call cluster. And then inside the cluster, we will have n number of nodes. So the example that I've shown, right? So it is a two node, one node one and node two. So there we call it as a two node cluster. So that is how we differentiate the terms.
Okay. Next question is also from Google. How can we integrate two nodes?
Integration in
Just
the
a brief overview.
yeah, integration in the sense that is a first you install a node and then everything is up and running, and then you would like to add another node to the existing one. So let me do one thing. So I have recently, just a couple of weeks ago, I have published a video on my YouTube channel how to configure a two-node cluster. So that will give you exact answer. So high level, I'll explain. First, uh, Google, I'm going to put this in the chart window itself, so you can refer to that video. We install a single node, and then when you install a second node, we give the reference points as first nodes, like, okay, this is my first node by some bootstrap file, we call it. So if you go through that video, you will get to understand entire things, how you build a two node cluster.
Perfect, Lakshmi. So now we have got a few questions from the guy's name is not there. So first question he asked is, dynamic topology works in recent versions. It's his question. Does dynamic topology work in recent versions?
Yes, so dynamic topology has been introduced. I'm not sure the version, but it is there in 19. All of the versions of 19, it is there. Uh, when it started, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't remember the exact version, but it is there in 19 and 20 also.
Okay. So his next question is, one VSQL process can handle how many concurrent users?
So there is no hard limit. Even Tableau published documentation never says one VSQL is capable of these many users. But I mean, again, it's my point. It's not like you have to hard code by the same number. So I would say um, eight core, eight core server with couple of one VSQL. I would say, not even couple. If it is a 16, then I would say couple of VSQL servers. 8 core would be capable of handling uh, 80 to 100 concurrent users, but not more than that.
Okay. So next question is, sometimes signing in is failing in first attempt, but getting succeeded in next attempt with same credentials. Uh, he has faced this issue with both local user and SAML user. How can this be debugged?
Even I face the same issue. The reason, it's like when you log in from, when you connect from VPN, I have seen this issue most of the times. So if I log in from VPN and then open the Tableau URL in my local, then it asks for the credentials twice. But if I log into the same URL from VDI, then I enter only once. So even so even I'm not sure how the uh, that working has been in that different. So we tried to open that with SAML as well as Tableau. So we haven't reached out to a perfect solution yet.
Okay, so next few questions are for Avinash now. Uh, so Avinash, first question is from Arpit Saxena. Uh, could you please share the calculation? How can we add lower and upper control limit along with average reference line?
Oh yeah, so these dashboards are available for the download. So he can simply download and explore through them. So he or she has any doubt, so they can definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to help.
Okay, and one more question is from
Sure.
Alok.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what he has referred to a dashboard related
Mhm.
to subject sports. So
Sorry.
what he sports, he's asking that you have
Okay.
done sports analysis in one of your dashboards, and there you must be using a picture and
Oh,
other
right,
details. So
right.
do you use external tool for design?
No. So what I will do usually, so if I want to make anything like portrait, so I will download the pic and I will use the PPT as a tool to change the colors of the pic, or maybe to make it as a portrait. So I haven't used any other tools apart from PPT and Tableau with respect to this.
Okay, perfect. So, Alok, just to answer your question, we have also had a session related to this. So there, PowerPoint was used for designing pictures, basically for embedding them into Tableau. So we already have had a session related to that topic. So you could go to Tableau's YouTube channel and search TeleTUG. So probably you'll find that topic covered in September or October session. So I think that would be useful for you if you are interested in designing uh, your dashboard using external softwares. So you can use either PowerPoint or Adobe. So Adobe charges for its license, but PowerPoint is definitely there with every Microsoft window. So you can definitely refer to that session.
Yeah, and Lakshay, just to add to you that there is one more tool called Figma. So that's also a free tool if you want to explore. Sorry, if Alok want to explore to that, so he can definitely do it, because I have seen so many visits during last year and this year by using Figma as a designer in the apart from Tableau.
Okay. So a few questions are about learning. How can they start learning? So Avinash or Lakshmi, any one of you can pick that question. So
Yeah.
how learning from basic can be started? Basic and then the calculation and all the functions part.
Yeah, maybe I can answer that question, Lakshmi, if you
Sure.
don't mind.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. So when it comes to Tableau, so you should not go anywhere and do it. So because Tableau is providing a complete end-to-end video tutorial on different topics, starting from connecting the data, creating visits, connecting to different data sources, and publishing to server. So I would really encourage him or her to learn the basic topics from Tableau. And once they are good with the basic topics, so they can really take a part of any of the community challenges like Makeover Monday, Sports with Sunday, where they will get an opportunity to learn about different kinds of data sets. Like in 1 week we have a food related data set, in other week we have sports, and in other week we have related to temperature, so on and so forth. So they can take a part of any of the visualization challenges where they can leverage uh, the possibility with multiple data source, and they can definitely benefit out of it. And also, if someone is new to Tableau, I would really encourage them to create a Tableau public profile and try to create the visits. So again, I can share my own experience. Maybe if it okay for, I can take maybe 30 seconds to do it. So if you are okay, Lakshmi and Lakshay.
Yeah, sure.
No,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. So even when I started creating the visits in Tableau, so I just learned the Tableau by myself. So I didn't take any course online. So I just find it very interesting. So I started building my Tableau public profile. So when I was creating visits initially, so I don't know much about the tool. So whatever I learned, I just simply create and push it to my profile. So later, after some time, what happened is I created some complex calculation related to date. And after 2 years, so then again, I faced the similar kind of situation. So again, I can't remember whatever I have done on 2 years back. So I simply logged into my Tableau public profile and downloaded the dashboard which I have created on 2 years ago, and I can make that happen. So from this, what I learned is so Tableau Public is something not to showcase our talent. So that is one aspect, but it's also a kind of a self learner for you. If you have any kind of calculations that you have done, that you have created on long ago, maybe we never know that we'll face the similar kind of situation in future. So it's also a kind of a self exploring material or tool, I can say.
Perfect. Thanks, Avinash. Uh, so one question is, there is a dashboard with live connection and data gets refreshed at the data source level. How long will it take for the data to be reflected into your dashboard?
Okay, uh, so it depends on how your cache server setting is on Tableau server. So in Tableau server, on the Tableau server, there is a parameter called data access caching set. So you can type in Google like configure data cache for Tableau server. So whatever minutes that specific parameter says, and those many minutes it will take to reflect. So let's say that is set to 30 minutes. Okay. So Lakshay has opened a specific dashboard which is connected to live data source, and until next 30 minutes whatever the data that is being pulled for that specific dashboard, that stays in your cache for 30 minutes. So it doesn't matter if the backend data source gets refreshed or not, but till the next 30 minutes it will show the same cached data. But after the 30 minutes, then the result will be pushed out from your cache process, and then when the next person opens the dashboard, then it will fetches the latest data. So that is how it that is how it behaves by default. But otherwise what you can do, you can click the refresh button on the dashboard on the top hand left side, so that it fetches the latest data. So that is another way of pushing it to do in that way.
So this particular question was asked by two separate users. Uh, I hope it is answered for both of you now. And if your question was how long would it take? So like if you're using an Excel and you are connected live to a dashboard on Tableau desktop, so their time is fixed. It takes 3 seconds. So if any change is done at your backend Excel file or any other database, so it takes 3 seconds from there, from database, to get the data refreshed into your Tableau desktop during development. So I
Yes.
think all the questions and answers have been completed.
Yeah, I
Uh,
just pasted a link in the chart which shows how the cache can be configured and what are the different options you can configure in there. So that has to be those commands, whatever are there in that link, those have to be run by your server administrators, not by you. And it is set for the entire server, not for a specific dashboard or something like that.
okay, thanks, Lakshmi. Thank you guys for joining in. Just before Lakshmi says a thank you note for all of you, I would just like to highlight that next session probably we'll be having in March, not March, April end or May starting, and we are hoping some new presenters. So any one of you who would be interested in presenting something new for our Tableau community, you are invited. And as a thank you, we will be giving away e-learning license to one of the presenter next time. Lakshmi, probably you can share that uh, contact details on first. So on your slide, first page,
Uh,
we
sure,
we
sure.
had both the emails now.
Just a second. Yeah. Guys, as we said, if you like to present, you're always welcome. So it need not to be a sophisticated presentation. It need not to be, um, the biggest technical topic. It might be a very simple topic, but if you think you took 6 7 days to learn, but it's a very small thing. It happens to so many people so many times. Even it happened to me. So some topics take a lot of time for me to understand, but when I explain things, they like others feel it like okay, it's very small, but we know how hard we tried to understand it. So if there are things that in such a way you would like to share, then definitely you are welcome. Join us and share us the same things. We are happy to host you as our next speakers. So you can reach out to either dailytug@gmail.com or hyderabadtug@gmail.com. So any of these two email IDs, we'll try to uh, be there.
I think we are done with the session. So thank you guys for your uh, useful time on a Friday evening, and happy Holi to every one of you in advance. Hope you have a great long weekend ahead and festivities continue, and we overcome this corona period soon, and we could get onto our in-person events soon enough. Thank you everyone. We'll just keep this chat window open for a minute or two more if you want to ask something else as well. Thank you again.